Hello there, a very good welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching Smart24 TV. My name is Anthony, and you're watching Financial Markets. Now, the show is probably brought to you by Altex East Africa, your number one private stock exchange. With Altex, you can buy and sell treasury bonds in East Africa. That is on the Kenyan market, the Ugandan treasury bond market, as well as the Tanzanian market. Altex East Africa is regulated by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda, and you can experience the magic at Altex by simply going to your phone and dialing *292# and following the prompts. With Altex East Africa, we are saying you can do something absolutely new and wonderful, and that is using your money to save and invest prudently. Altex East Africa also has exchange-traded funds which give you investment in various diversified portfolios in the treasury bond markets. Remember, treasury bonds are the safest and one of the most highly returning asset classes of the financial markets here in East Africa. Let's get to dive right into the business of the stock exchange. Of course, it's a Tuesday, and we get to rank, of course, some of the biggest stocks here in Africa. Of course, and get to start with, of course, the Uganda Securities Exchange and have a look at some of the biggest names in the exchange here in Uganda. Starting off with Monday tradings looked pretty slightly decreasing in terms of the volumes and the turnovers on the market. The market saw at least 58.3 million Ugandan shillings transacted on the first weekday of trading. Comparing this with Friday on the 5th of May, the data showed at least a 69% decline in the volume and at least over 65% declines in the turnovers as well. The market capitalization rounded off the day with 19.5 trillion Ugandan shillings closing on Monday. However, the day ended with at least 4 participating equities on the market, and the day ended with 2 gainers and 8 losers, which dragged the market downwards, especially being marked by the decline in the all-share index. The 2 biggest gainers were Jubilee Holdings Limited and Umeme. Remember, Jubilee Holdings Limited as well earlier in the day was able to unveil their dividend for this year. Jubilee Holdings will be issuing a dividend of 8 Kenyan shillings. This is an insurance company based in Kenya, but of course with a subsidiary here in Uganda, that is Jubilee Holdings Uganda. Now, looking at the other gainer on the market, Umeme came in as the second biggest gainer with a 1.81% appreciation in price, closing at 427.62 Ugandan shillings per share. News coming in from Umeme, it shows that the company has actually been able to schedule their general meeting, which is going to be a hybrid annual general meeting that is going to be held next week on the 18th of May. That is going to be on Thursday, and definitely there will be a segment, there will be an allowance for those of you who want to join online, and of course registration starts on 7th. And we'll be running, actually started on the 7th, and we'll be running all the way through to the 17th of May. So definitely make it a point to be able to attend that general meeting. If you are a shareholder with Umeme, you want to be one of the people that are going to be able to approve that dividend and, of course, listen to what the Chief Financial Officer has to say in as far as the company's performance in the year 2022. Umeme Limited currently has a market capitalization of 695 billion Ugandan shillings, marking about 3.56% of the Uganda Securities Exchange. Umeme also is currently the 7th most valuable on the market, and current pricing is 427.62 Ugandan shillings per share. The company's stock price is still rising, and there is no sign that it will level off any sooner. The appetite for the stock has been going up amongst investors in the recent past since the company actually announced a dividend of 63 shillings, and the fact that they will be exiting Uganda in 2025, meaning the company will be delisting later on this year or earlier next year. Remember, currently, when you look at the trading yesterday, they did have at least over 123,853 shares traded at a gross turnover of 53 million Ugandan shillings. And the 1.62 billion shares are still currently outstanding on the market. Umeme has currently gained on a weekly performance over 6.91% in the past 7 days, and in the 4 weeks, that is the past 1 month, over at least 29.2%, whereas in the past 3 months, we have at least 42.5%, and in the past 6 months, over 114%. 1 year gains of 83.6% have also been registered by the company. Umeme currently is also the second most traded on stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange over the past 3 months. From the 31st of January to the 8th of May, the company has seen a total of 16.9 million shares traded, valued at currently over about 5.68 billion. That means that Umeme definitely marks the biggest stock via turnover on the market in the past 3 months. Later on in this week, definitely we are expecting reports from the Capital Markets Authority. We'll be definitely be able to break them down for you here on the show. You can be rest assured about that. But definitely from our calculations, Smart24 TV, we can already tell that Umeme is currently on top in terms of turnover on the market. What, of course, has contributed to that has been the rapid growth in the stock price of the company in the recent past. And of course, that has driven their value like crazy on the market. However, there is an annual general meeting next week on the 18th of May that will see the approval of the dividend that was recommended by the board of directors at Umeme last week. Moving on, the losers on the market were quite many, including both the domestic listings and the cross listings. Bank of Baroda Uganda unfortunately came out at the bottom of the stocks that lost, and that was after a loss of over 11.76%. This was one of the biggest losses that the company has ever registered since last year. And actually, in last year's tradings, the company did not go as low as 75. When you look at the past few years, 2020, 2021, the company's stock price has been at least on average above 80 shillings, 85 shillings, 100 shillings. And in the past, it even used to reach 200 shillings. However, now currently the stock price is accounting losses over about 11.76% in price from Monday's trade down to 75 shillings, a quite sharp decline for the stock. Now, yesterday's trade was marked with just 700 shares that were traded at 52,500 Ugandan shillings. You can see how really small movements can affect the stock very, very greatly. These 700 shares were sold at 75 shillings, and that led to the decline down to 75 shillings. Now, that means that Bank of Baroda definitely has a very great effort to see that they return their stock to even above 85, which they have been trading at for the past couple of months on the stock exchange. However, currently on the stock exchange, they are the 12th most valuable stock with a total of 188 billion Ugandan shillings worth of market capitalization and representing just short of 1%, about 0.961% of the Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. Now, when you look at Bank of Baroda Uganda, it's a competing stock with other financial institutions that are listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange. And these we are talking about, for example, Stanbic Bank Uganda, we are talking about Equity Bank Limited and the like. However, currently Bank of Baroda's performance is quite disappointing after this loss that they witnessed on Monday. The stock currently is still in the fourth position in terms of trading, which is shedding some bit of hope that probably many more investors will come on board definitely to see that they buy more stock, probably to push the price upwards. But at the moment, we are witnessing the drop. In the past 3 months, the company has traded just about 11 million shares and with about a turnover of about 931 million Ugandan shillings on the Uganda Securities Exchange. That's pretty much it about Bank of Baroda. We definitely hope the stock will pick up later on in the week as we also await the financial results for the year 2022 on the stock. Moving on, we did have Stanbic Bank Uganda, another financial institution, actually lose value of at least 2.91%, down to a trading price of 25.0 from about 25.75 Ugandan shillings. That means the stock lost 0.75 Ugandan shillings. Stanbic Bank Uganda traded just about 3,000 shares at 75,000 Ugandan shillings. Again, another small volume that's greatly impacting the stock pricing. That shows you that the stock's price is quite sensitive to movement. Even the slightest movements in volumes can greatly influence the stock. Currently, Stanbic Bank Uganda has about 51.2 billion shares that are floated on the exchange at a 1.28 trillion market capitalization on the Uganda Securities Exchange. However, just the recent past, the stock has been picking up in terms of gaining pricing. When you look at the last 4 weeks, the gain is at least 19.1%. In the last 3 months, we are looking at a gain of 3.7%. From averages of about 21 shillings to the current 25 Ugandan shillings. So we are still in good books when we talk about Stanbic Bank Uganda's performance in the past 1 month and in the past 3 months on the exchange. Stanbic began the year with 21.0 Ugandan shillings, and in year-to-date performance, it has gained 19.1%, making it the second biggest on the year-to-date performance list. Stanbic Bank Uganda is also currently the number one most traded on stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange over the past 3 months. And in this period, they have seen about 134 million shares valued at 3.09 billion. Stanbic Bank Uganda this year definitely increased in terms of profit and the base, of course, of customers, and is one of the leading financial institutions in the country currently in terms of the credit, in terms of also assets, one of the biggest banks in terms of assets. Their profit has been growing in the past 3 months very progressively from 243 billion in 2020 rather. Then in 2021, we moved to over 275 billion. And in 2022, over 366 billion was registered in profits. And that came as well with a growth in assets, as of course clarified by their financial reports. Nation Media Group also came in the third position amongst the worst losers. That is the third worst loser for the day. At least over 1.25% was lost on the media house listing here on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Nation Media Group currently counts about 83.7 billion Ugandan shillings in market capitalization, which represents about 0.429% of the Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. And this was after a drop of 5.62 Ugandan shillings down to a price of 444 Ugandan shillings. There were no shares traded and, of course, no turnover for Nation Media Group. MTN Uganda, unfortunately, as well lost some bit of value, at least over 0.57% of the value of the stock was lost on Monday. MTN Uganda currently has 3.76 trillion Ugandan shillings worth of market capitalization and currently is the second most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Currently, MTN represents a value of 19.3% or a fraction of 19.3% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange, making it the second most valuable stock on the exchange. In terms of the recent performances, MTN Uganda's performance has been relatively better than in, of course, the last 3 months. When you look at the past 1 week, we are still counting a gain of 1.81% after the stock rose from the lowest pricings it has ever seen, about 165 Ugandan shillings, to averages of currently 168.0 Ugandan shillings. MTN Uganda, currently in the past 3 months, is the third most traded on stock, and over the period from the 31st of January, it has recorded at least 16.8 million shares and about 2.84 billion Ugandan shillings market turnover on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Moving on, Centum Investments dropped 0.04% down to 231.54 Ugandan shillings per share, and Kenya Airways followed suit at a 0.04% drop in price, down to 104.33 Ugandan shillings per share. That's pretty much it about the gainers and participants on the market. Now, moving on to the Uganda Securities Exchange All Share Index, which is a benchmark performance indicator for the exchange. The index, of course, dropped quite a little bit of points there, about 4.5 points on Monday. Of course, consequent of the 6 losers on the market, 8 losers, matter of fact, on the market. And this was down to at least 1,089.41 points at the closure of Monday tradings. Currently, we are seeing a 1 week loss of 2.42% and about 4 week losses of 4.42% on this index on the Uganda Securities Exchange. The US e-local company index, which looks at or tracks the local companies, on the other hand, decreased 1% down to 273.40 points. Well, the day is open for trade. It's a Tuesday. You can start again. You can always change your portfolio. You can always reach out to your stockbroker. The trading happens between exactly 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. East African time. You can reach out to your stockbroker and get to order some shares if you would want to. And you can also get to diversify your portfolio a little bit. We do have other income securities, the fixed income securities that you can also participate in. We have the unit trusts, quite a number of products for you on the financial markets here in Uganda. You can definitely take advantage of them. Moving on to Nairobi Securities Exchange. Nairobi definitely had a busy day of trading on Monday. Over 50 equities participating in the trading on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, having at least 23 gainers and over 20 losers on the market. Samia Africa led the gainers with an 8.96% share price appreciation up to a closing price of 2.19%, 2.19 Kenyan shillings. And following, of course, was TPS East African Serena with a gain of 8.21%. Wutumi Supermarket also gained at least 5%, and NCBA Group also gained 4.63% on the market. East African Portland Cement was the biggest loser for the day at Nairobi Securities Exchange, unfortunately, after losing at least 9.52% of its value and closing at a price of at least 1.45 Kenyan shillings. And you look at Liberty Kenya Holdings, they lost at least 3.61%, and Nairobi Business Ventures dropped off close to 3.41%. Diamond Trust Bank shedded off at least a 2.79% of value on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. CIC Insurance led the movers, now with a volume of at least 798,400 shares, followed by Safaricom. Safaricom recorded at least 573,100 shares, and Cooperative Bank of Kenya at least had 489,500 shares that were recorded, whereas Home Africa at least had 363,700 shares. When it comes to the NSE market indices, the All Share Index moved up, of course, consequent of the big gainers on the market, with a movement of at least 0.55 points. closing at 103.60 points, representing 1 week losses of at least 3.74% and a 4-week loss of at least 8.16%. The overall year-to-date loss is currently at 18.73%. Well, slight improvements here and there, but Safaricom, of course, the biggest stock, continues to suffer on the market with losses, and currently they are at 15.95 Kenyan shillings. However, Monday was a quite brighter day for them, unlike other days that they have seen their stock fall from the sky. The Safaricom stock had smaller volumes relatively still comparing to what we are used to with Safaricom. Just about 570,000 shares were recorded on Safaricom. That's pretty much it from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. You can be able to open an account and trade with different stockbrokers in Nairobi Stock Exchange. Elsewhere in Africa, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange added 4,396 points on their all-share index. The stock looks to be doing quite well, picturing, of course, the performance of their all-share index. In aggregate, they had about 29 Zimbabwe Stock Exchange equities participating, with 24 gainers and just 2 losers. The Rio Zim, that is the company there that led the gainers at a 15% appreciation. This is a mining and metallurgical operations at different locations in Zimbabwe company, and it does mine and especially do operations in gold and other minerals as well on the market. Elsewhere on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, they had an appreciation of at least 114 points on their benchmark index, whereas the Johannesburg Stock Exchange had 439 points added to their benchmark index as well. Let's move to the international markets on the Wall Street. First and foremost, of course, recently there's been a war on the regional banking, especially with regional banks closing after they ran out of cash. Now, the stocks, especially on Monday, were muted, especially around the afternoons, as investors, of course, got to await more corporate earnings that were yet to be unveiled. The latest inflation report and, of course, a much anticipated meeting between President Joe Biden and the House Speaker, that is Kevin McCarthy. The S&P 500 fell 0.2% at exactly 2 p.m. Eastern Time, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost at least 135 points, whereas the technology-heavy Nasdaq Composite was down 0.14%. Regional banks, especially the stocks that are listed on several indices, also fell on Friday and extended their Friday rally after shooting up nearly 30% at the market open. The PacWest Bancorp shares paired most of these gains. When you look at also the stocks, there was up at least, most of the stocks were up less than 5% in midday trading after the bank cut its dividend, and CEO Paul Taylor reiterated the bank is sound. Subsequently, KBW, the banking index, retreated as well, falling nearly 2% after gaining nearly 5% on Friday. A very good Friday, and starting off kind of slightly lower on Monday. Stocks continue to react to Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholding meeting that was held over the weekend as well in Omaha in Nebraska. The meeting also saw the Berkshire stock actually ticked higher, at least about 1%, while the Occidental Petroleum shares dropped more than 2% after Warren Buffett said that he won't be buying a controlling stake in the Houston-based oil company. That's pretty much it from the Wall Street, and you can find more on our website at www.smart24tv.com. Getting to look at the cryptocurrencies here briefly, the Bitcoin is currently trading at $27,467 after a drop of 4.91%. in the past 24 hours. Ethereum coin is as well down by 3.91% at 1,837 US dollars. That's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more business coming your way. Remember to check us out on Twitter at Smart24 TV and check out OTEX East Africa for the latest treasury bonds in East Africa. Dial *292# to experience the magic at OTEX East Africa. That's it, my friend, and I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good day. Bye for now.